Hey, howdy, hey, superpowered beings, Wolfman 47-here. So, again, I'm shirtless because it's a hot day, and I'm going to be splitting this video into two, possibly more parts, depending on how I get on with this video. Because, as we all know, Superman has been in a lot of different films, a lot of different TV shows, obviously lots of comics and all sorts of other things. So it was tricky for me to figure out how to do this video, but I ended up deciding on talking about the films that I've seen and the TV shows that I've seen. So yeah, there will be obviously a lot that I'll be missing out. So Superman and Lois I've never seen, the black and white Superman stuff I've never seen, and also Smallville. I have seen a few episodes, but not like the whole series, so it doesn't feel right for me to review only a few episodes if I've only seen a few episodes. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna do, and then with the most recent Superman film that's come out just the week that I recording this, which is last week, hopefully, depending on when I actually put this up and scheduled. I'll add that to the end of this video. So let's get to it, because we got a lot to get through. So starting off with the 1978 film, simply called Superman. So this is, of course, starring Christopher Reeve as Superman, Marlon Brando as his Kryptonian father, and it's basically as you'd expect it to be. It's a Superman origin story. Not really much to it, and it's directed by Richard Donner, who directed all the Superman films that Christopher Reeve starred in, I believe. I could be wrong about that. But yeah, it's I don't remember it too well. I just remember it being iconic and so forth, and basically pretty much a typical Superman origin story with not really much else to it. It's got all the characters you'd expect to see, everything that happens, and yada yada yada. Get the idea of that. So I won't waste too much time on it. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because I'm acknowledging its iconic status, and that this is to both the original and the Richard Donner cut, because I don't really see much difference in the two, but that's just me. So yeah, on to Superman 2, and I think this is the one that has General Zod in it. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, so Superman has become this big superhero. He's fighting crimes over the world and everything. I think in this one he teams up with Lex Luthor at one point, but yeah, he also fights General Zod as well. Yeah, it's pretty much another Christopher Reeve story. Not really much to it. Good visuals, good acting and everything. Iconic as well. But I don't think I liked it as much as I liked the first one, from what I remember of the first one. So I think I'm going to give it a slightly lower score of a 7 out of 10 for that one. Bringing us on to one of my least favourite Superman films, Superman 3. So this is the one where you have a team of human beings, or some team of people that are trying to turn Superman evil, and he becomes evil, fights an evil version of himself, and that's pretty much just the overall film. There's not really much else to say about it. So yeah, that's only the only thing I really remember from this film. So and while great that it's a good concept to sort of explore the idea of Superman being evil, and obviously it would be explored in much later media, yeah, I don't think there's really all that much to it, so I'm going to give this one also a 7 out of 10. So yeah, moving on from that, next we have the Supergirl film, and yeah, I'll be honest, I can definitely see why so many people didn't particularly like this film, and I for one don't really remember anything from it. I'll be honest, before I did this video I didn't actually rewatch any of the Superman films, because I thought I'd remember most of them, but clearly I'm not remembering most of them. But I think with Supergirl, from what I remember, it wasn't a good film. But obviously it wouldn't be the only Supergirl thing we'd see, because we have a TV series which I'll talk about a little bit later on in this video. But for the Supergirl film, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And then let's get this over and done with, so I can move on to the good stuff. Superman 4: Quest for Peace, and this is the film where Warner Brothers gave the guy that directed this film the money, but he spent the money on everything else, and what you see in this film is pretty much just poor visual effects and just reuse stuff, and It's basically just a piss poor film, which does explore the idea of having a character called Nuclear Man who is meant to be this thing powered by the sun. Obviously, Superman gets his powers from the sun as well, but it's just stupid and weird and just very poorly made and very poor and everything. So I'm giving it a 2 out of 10 because I hate it that much. But something I do like more is the Superman the Animated Series. So this is an animated series that is set in the DC Animated Universe. So comprising of Batman the Animated Series, Batman Beyond, Justice League, and other things. And Superman the Animated Series was basically the second series that was created for this animated universe, which initially started out as its own separate thing, but then became part of the animated series thanks to crossovers with Batman the Animated Series in the form of the Superman Batman Hour, which when it was broadcast on Kids WB and or Cartoon Network. So the first 3 episodes are of course Superman arriving to Earth, coming to terms with Warriors. Tim Daly voices the character here, and Clancy Brown, who you all know as Mr. Krabs from SpongeBob and other things, he voices Lex Luthor in this series. And I gotta say, this series I thought was really good. It basically manages to do a lot of different Superman stories, obviously because it's a Superman the Animated Series, trying to do its own take on some quite famous stories, such as the famous race between Flash and Superman and other stuff as well. And I really enjoyed it, and it was definitely a very good take on Superman that I could watch as a Saturday morning cartoon if I wanted to. I didn't watch the whole series when I was young in the end for reasons, but I'm gonna give this series, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 because I did really enjoy it. So now there's a common misconception with Superman Brainiac Attacks in that a lot of people assume that because it's got the same animation as Superman the Animated Series, it is also part of the DC Animated Universe. Well, you couldn't be more wrong. Despite the fact that it does feature the same animation, it's many people, including Bruce Timm, who's like the head honcho of and all of most animated DC stuff. He said himself that this is actually not canon, but you can draw your conclusions of that. But from what I remember of it, it was okay. Don't think much to it. So I'm gonna be fair, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. So then comes Brendan Routh, who plays an alternative version to Christopher Reeve's Superman in Superman Returns, which is an alternative Superman 3. So basically it cancels out the 3rd and 4th films, but some could argue that those films could be set after this film. But regardless, it's a film where Brendan Routh is Superman, the disgraced Kevin Spacey is Lex Luthor, plays a particularly good Lex Luthor, and it's all about Superman returning, quite literally returning after a long period of time being away, and he sets out to basically try and reclaim the title of being the most superpowered being, and tries to destroy this huge stash of kryptonite that Lex Luthor has. And honestly, from the director of the X-Men films, I was hoping this to be a good Superman film, and it is a good Superman film, don't get me wrong, but it could have been so much better. What I do quite like about this film is that it's one of a few films that I am gonna be talking about in this video where they actually did get quite an attractive guy playing Superman. Brendan Routh I don't have a crush on at all, but I think he was very good as Superman, and I like that they showed a bit of his flesh because he is quite muscular and quite cute looking. So yeah. So I'm going to give Superman Returns a fair score of 8 out of 10 because it's good. It's not like perfect or anything, but it's good for what it was. But obviously, because Kevin Spacey is now disgraced, it can be quite difficult to watch the film now because of what happened with him. So then after the success of the DC Animated Universe, DC and Warner Brothers decided to create a series of animated features for direct-to-home media, which would be known collectively as DC Universe Animated Original Movies, although there would be some that wouldn't fall in under that banner but would still be released straight to home media. And the first of these films was a Superman film called Superman Doomsday, which loosely adapts the death of Superman and the storylines that follow that. So in this world, Superman is already a well-established superhero, and then this creature called Doomsday arrives, terrorizes Metropolis, and so it's up to Superman to stop him. And then Superman kind of realizes that this might be what kills him, so he does what he can to protect Metropolis. He dies, obviously, and then Lois Lane has to come to terms with that, and then Lex Luthor creates this new Superman to try and do that, and yeah, all sorts of stuff happen. Animation aside, which I thought was a bit not great, but yeah, I think it's an okay version of the story. Obviously, I prefer the comic book version and a much later adaptation, which I'll talk about a little later on. But for what it is, it was a good start to what had been a very successful series of animated films. I don't know if they're continuing now since the Crisis on Infinite Earths 3-part from the Crisis of Infinite Earths trilogy, but yeah, it's a good decent film. Definitely one of the few times where it definitely pretty much set the tone of the majority of these films, because the majority of these films aren't restricted to being like child friendly or family friendly or whatever. They actually can go more mature, more violent and everything, because that's the point of straight tone media. You can do whatever you want, but obviously with some criteria. So yeah, so I'm gonna give Superman Doomsday I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 because I don't particularly like the animation of this, but despite that, I do otherwise enjoy it. It's just the animation can be a little bit odd and distracting. So there was a series of comic books simply called Superman Batman, and it was basically a team-up series that saw Superman and Batman teaming up with each other to try and do stuff. And with this series ended up having 2 films, the first of which is Superman Batman Public Enemies, and this reunites, as I understand it, George Newbern so yeah, it reunites George Newbern and Kevin Conroy, or I think it was Tim Daly. I could be wrong about that, but anyway. So in this first film, Lex Luthor places a bounty on Superman after Superman accidentally kills Metallo, and pretty much every person and their grandma is trying to hunt him down. So including heroes, villains, and during this time, Batman happens to be with him, and they choose that they can't, and they decide that they can't trust anyone, so they do whatever they can to try and stop Lex Luthor. And then it's revealed that there's something coming to Earth that must be stopped, so Batman has to go stop it, because it was all Lex Luthor's fault and everything. So yeah, this is kind of a DC animated universe reunion of sorts, because everyone in the film is back. Kevin Conroy's back, George Newbern's back, Clancy Brown's back, the lady that voices Amanda Waller is back, and everything. And while, again, I'm not particularly keen on the sort of animation that they try to do, because it's very much straight from the comic into film, I did enjoy it much more than Doomsday, because it's a team-up film. I love team-up films, and I think some of the best team-up films are the ones where you get actors that have great chemistry and they really work, and this definitely shows in this film, for sure. So I'm going to give Public Enemies an 8 out of 10. And then it had a sequel that uses completely different animation, but kind of more of an anime Ben 10 kind of style kind of animation, which would go on into future DC films, and that would be Superman Batman Apocalypse. So this is more of a Supergirl-centered story, in which Supergirl arrives on planet Earth and is trying to adapt to being this superpower being. She arrives completely naked, so obviously she has to be covered up and everything. And it's basically a case of people sort of trying to figure out who's right and who's wrong. So Superman wants to teach her how to use her powers and how to be a good superhero, whereas Batman is of the opinion that she should be having protection and making sure that she's not going to cause any harm and offense to her, which leads him into having Wonder Woman take her to Themyscira to basically train her up, and then they fight the assassin. They then fight this group of clone Doomsdays, and eventually Darkseid arrives to basically say that he was going to take Supergirl, so the team go and rescue him. And in this film, even though it does reunite George Newbern, reunite the person that plays Wonder Woman in the DC animated universe with George Newbern / Tim Daly, whatever, and Kevin Conroy. It doesn't feature the same actor that plays Darkseid, and I remember in a particular scene, there's this particular scene in the film where Kevin Conroy's Batman does a pretty ballsy thing and basically tries to talk Darkseid down into releasing Supergirl, and it's quite a big moment because obviously, as we all know, Batman is human, and Darkseid could very easily kill him and defeat and or kill him if he wanted to, but Batman did quite a ballsy thing and actually made Darkseid back down. And for all these characters that are meant to be like these godlike characters that have these great powers and so forth, the fact that a human of all people can talk down otherwise a godlike character like Darkseid, it speaks volumes. It really does speak volumes, and it definitely shows in this film. So I'm gonna give this one I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 because I actually do quite like it a lot. So yeah. So now we'll come to a short film called Superman Shazam: Return of Black Adam, where basically Superman, I think, teams up with Shazam to take down Black Adam. I don't really remember all that much about it, apart from it had some pretty spot on animation, and it was one of a few Blu-rays that I ended up buying that was basically a collection of short films that would either tie into something, or if not tie into something, would just be very similar or very relatable and so forth. Much of these short films would be based on lesser known characters, teams and so forth from DC, and they would usually be part of a bonus feature and so forth, which I do quite like, because it's so often short films can be very overlooked compared to these feature films. But I'm glad that I was able to get the chance to talk about this one, and even though I don't know too much, don't remember too much about it, I remember it being good, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So another animated film that, honestly, I don't remember anything apart from the animation just looking a bit weird, is All-Star Superman. So in this one, Superman is dying, and it's not a case of Doomsday or Darkseid, Lex Luthor are trying to kill him. No, he is actually quite literally dying, and he goes in, and it ultimately ends with him going into the sun to try and rebuild the sun, if you can really believe that can be a thing. And yeah, I don't really remember that much else from it apart from those things, and also that the animation looks like that. Makes every character look like they've got lips, and lips that looks like they're about to kiss. So yeah. But it does have a few funny moments, has a few action-packed moments, but it's a Superman film that's pretty much more full of heart than anything else. It does have a few emotional moments and so forth as well. So yeah. So I'm gonna give this one a 6 out of 10, only because it's not my favourite animated Superman film. Moving on from that, we come to Superman vs. the Elite. So this film is the first film since Superman Doomsday to use the same Superman theme, and it's based on a well-known Superman comic called what was it? What is it about the truth, justice, and the American way, in which this team of super beings called the Elite kind of puts Superman's morals and principles to the test, to sort of determine if he really is the hero that Metropolis and the world needs. And it leads into all these different events happening. These things Superman ends up doing is just things that he would not usually otherwise not do. And I do really like it, because it's not often that you get villains that just put heroes to the absolute limits, and this team of heroes, the Elite, definitely do that. George Newbern is back to voice Superman again, and while I think the animation looks very much like a Saturday morning cartoon in places, but also a hint of anime as well, I like the story, I like the animation, like the characters, and I think the whole general idea, what's so funny about Truth, Justice, American Way, is just a way to sort of help sort of describe the morals and principles of Superman that he tries to follow, but isn't always able to follow them exactly to the point on T and everything. So yeah, so I'm gonna give Superman vs. the Elite a 9 out of 10 because I really did like it. Superman Unbound. So this one, as I understand it, is meant to be set in the Superman Batman universe, in which Supergirl is still coming to terms with her powers and everything, and then this Brainiac or some other creature attacks the Earth, and it's up to Superman and Supergirl to stop him. And yeah, it's basically another team-up film, but this time more focused on the Super family, as it were. And I did kind of found some enjoyment in it, not really that much enjoyment in it, but it was okay for what it was. So, yeah, I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Bringing us on to the DC Extended Universe debut, which started off with Man of Steel. So Man of Steel is basically another Superman origin story, but this time more dark and more grittier, and actually has a person that to this day I do think is a very handsome, very hot kind of actor, and that is Henry Cavill, only because he has a hairy chest. And let's be honest, a person who's very good looking and has a hairy chest is usually a good sign. But anyway, so Henry Cavill plays Superman in this film, and in this film he arrives on Earth. Pretty much the whole origin story is played again, only this time General Zod is the one responsible for blowing up Metropolis. He arrives on Earth with the intent to capture Superman, and basically he and Zod have a fight. They try and destroy these things that are trying to destroy the Earth, and yeah. If you remember Man of Steel, then you'll remember this film. It's not a perfect film, definitely not one of my favourite Zack Snyder films, but it's basically another take of a larger story that doesn't really do much to it other than give us another great big summer blockbuster visual spectacle kind of film, which is what Zack Snyder is well known for doing, and also it gives us a new Superman who, to many people, might be the most handsome Superman we've ever had. So yeah, so I'm gonna give Man of Steel a 7 out of 10. And now we come to the other adaptation of The Death of Superman, which I know is 2 films, but I'm gonna sort of talk about the one that kind of combines both these films together, and it's called The Death and Return of Superman. So, in this film, which I feel is a much more faithful adaptation to the story, it's set in the DC animated movie universe, and Justice League are going about their business, and then this being called Doomsday arrives and basically tries to do things. Superman is trying to get on with his day, but the Justice League are doing whatever they can to try and take on Doomsday without Superman, just to buy Superman time. And he eventually does end things with Lois and then fights Doomsday. And what I like about this film is that compared to Superman Doomsday, there is actually a lot of emotional depth to it. That you feel the emotion that's happening, and you do actually feel emotional when he actually does end up dying in the end. It's a much more faithful adaptation to the story. And then in the second half of it, it's all about these different people sort of coming into being to try and be the new Superman. So you got a guy in a sort of steel costume trying to be Superman. You got this sort of superpower being created by Lex Luthor being Superman, an actual android from Metropolis being Superman. And I think there might be another one. Oh yeah, and then there's this cyborg Superman who is basically the evil Superman, who's basically an astronaut that Superman failed to save, and ended up becoming a cyborg as a result. And then, as we find out, all this leads to basically Darkseid trying to take over the world again, and when the Justice League and so forth find out, it kind of ends with them deciding that they have to stop Darkseid and basically bring the party to him for once. So yeah, so Death and Return of Superman is a much better adaptation of that story, and it's definitely does its own thing within the cinematic universe that it's set in, and it does well to adapt it, albeit its own way, which I think is more important than anything. So yeah, so I'm gonna give The Death and Return of Superman, or The Death of Superman and Reign of Superman collectively a 9 out of 10. Because I really enjoyed it that much. And then comes the Supergirl TV series, which I'm not going to go through every single season of because I don't really have time to do that right now. But basically, it's basically one of your typical CW series where you got this very attractive cast playing all these different characters from the comics. And initially, it's set in its own universe, being its own thing, and then a Flash crossover in the first season with Grant Gustin reprising the role from his show. Basically made it part of the Arrowverse at large, albeit set on its own Earth, but Supergirl would still be part of the crossover nonetheless. Until the Crisis on Infinite Earth storyline that the Arrowverse does, not to be confused with the animated one, in which Supergirl then becomes part of the same Earth as Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, and even Black Lightning as well. Every season sees Supergirl in her own city, fighting crime, working with her sister and allies with the DEO, trying to save the world and everything. And it's one of those good CW shows that I enjoyed watching, and definitely does a good job of adapting the story of Supergirl in much better than the film ever did. It's a really good show. It does have a few moments where it does feel a bit cringy and cheesy and everything, but that's to be expected with these sort of young adult shows. So I'm going to give the show overall a 9 out of 10 because I enjoyed it very much. So next is the second DC Extended Universe film, which is Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice, or Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, whatever you want to call it. So in this film, Batman finds out that Superman accidentally destroyed one of his buildings and killed a lot of people as a result of fighting Zod. So, which, you know, accidental and everything. Batman thinks he did it on purpose, and basically decides to become and basically Bruce Wayne decides to become Batman once again after a long period of time, and basically sets out to try and stop Superman. Lex Luthor, who in this universe is played by Jesse Eisenberg, sets out to basically manipulate both of them into fighting each other, which they do eventually do, and then suddenly, oh no, they have the same mother, and then some kind of dark doomsday is created, and it's up to Superman and Batman to stop him, but they get help in the form of Wonder Woman, and yeah, although it's not a bad sequel to Man of Steel, it certainly has a lot of flaws to it. Like, it doesn't quite feel like a proper Batman v Superman film, because it feels like a Batman v Superman film in the sense that there is a lot of build up to the fight, but for the fight to end on just a coincidence just feels stupid and dumb. But you know, it is what it is. But I really did enjoy it. I really enjoyed the build up. I enjoyed the actual fight. I didn't enjoy the coincidence, but I did enjoy the fight that the Trinity have against Doomsday. Even though Doomsday feels like it could have been just another General Zod, but hey ho, it is what it is. So I'm gonna give it a 8 out of 10. And usually I would, and while I could go and talk about Justice League is not really, only features Superman, but it's not actually focused on Superman. It does feature other heroes as well, so that'll be saved for another video. So next is Superman Red Sun. So in this one, it's basically a scenario in which instead of American soil landing in Smallville, Superman ends up in the Russian Empire and basically becomes a Russian, fighting for Russians and everything. And it's kind of a nice kind of film, seeing a different Superman. It does have a few problems in the sense that it is trying to be its own thing, but kind of being a very piss poor job of it and being boring and so forth. It does feature other heroes in there playing alternative versions of themselves, but overall it just feels like it's a concept that could have worked on a hell of a lot better, but it is what it is. So I'm going to give Superman Red Sun a 8 out of 10. Next is Superman Man of Tomorrow. So this is the first film of the Tomorrowverse cinematic universe, which is the universe that came after the DC animated movie universe. And honestly, I don't really remember that much from the film, other than I just hated the animation. It just felt very cel-shaded, very more comic book like, and that's all well and good, but I kind of prefer the anime Ben 10 style, but it is what it is. And I don't remember that much from it, so I'm just going to give it a 6 out of 10. And then final film, and then I'm going to go on break. And then I'm going to go on break and then see the other film, and then see the new Superman film, and then add that to the end. We have Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons, which is basically an excuse for Batman and Superman to have their respective sons go on a little adventure, and it's kind of one of those films, and it's a 3D animated film, which I don't not quite 100% on with the animation and that, but I kind of understand why they wanted to do this sort of film, because they wanted to see Batman's son and Superman's son basically do stuff together, which is not something we don't often see on screen. So I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. And that is your lot for now, and obviously next part will be the Superman film that's just come out. Hopefully it will be good, we shall see. So I will see you then.
The next day.
Alright, so now we're on to talking about the 2025 film, which I've just come back from seeing, and I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible, because I do need to be out of here and away somewhere soon, so let's go back to it. So, as we know, James Gunn is now one of the two heads behind the new DC Cinematic Universe, as I'm going to call it, just because it's just better that way. I know it's not called that, but yeah. And this film, thank God, doesn't do a rehash of the origin story like Man of Steel did and previous films before it. No, this time it just gives you a text scroll saying what's happened in a period of time. Superman's established himself, Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, established himself, and yada yada yada. In a way, the film does kind of play out as if it's a TV show, like a TV episode of something, but what I really particularly like about it is that it's pretty much a fun Superman film. It's light-hearted, it's got a lot of emotional depth to it. It does establish some cinematic universe rules as well, albeit subtly, because obviously they want to test the waters and see how this film does, which is doing really well. Great acting, great action pieces, set designs. CGI doesn't look too cheap and cheerful. Actually looks like really good fun. And honestly, going into this, I had no issue with James Gunn sort of helming this, because James Gunn is amazing. He does a lot of great stuff, and and there's not really any film I could say that is outright bad that he's done. Even the ones that he didn't actually direct himself are still, in my honest opinion, still good, even if they're not as good as this. It does feature some cameos from a few people, but we already know that the Suicide Squad was going to be part of this universe anyway. Sorry, slight spoiler there. But yeah, it's a really good, really fun film. I enjoyed it very much. It's, as I say, it's got good acting, a good soundtrack as well, and it also kind of does something a little bit different to the Superman mythos. Like it's kind of concerning his parents. Like, we've always known that his parents from Krypton have been this very wise individuals and so forth. And then, as it's later revealed, something that they say actually sort of changes everything that we know about Superman and why. And for some reason, my camera's glitching, and all this other stuff as well. So yeah, that is basically what I think about the 2025 film. It is a really, really good film. Definitely a much better DC film than we've had in the last couple of years or so. And I think James Gunn was the right person to helm this new cinematic universe. And as long as DC and Warner Bros. Stick to James Gunn and don't constantly change people, then it will for sure have a successful journey ahead. Unlike Marvel, who are basically drowning despite the leadership not changing at all. So it is what it is. So overall, I'm gonna give the Superman the 2025 film a solid 9 out of 10. It's a really good film. I've got no beef with it, hardly any issues with it, and I think it's good fun. So yeah, and that concludes my very long review of the various Superman films that we've had over the years, both animated, live action, and some of the TV shows as well. I don't know what will be next for the Man of Steel himself, but as far as I can tell, we're definitely going to see more live action Superman for sure. Animated Superman, who knows? We'll just see what James Gunn has planned, because I know he said that he has plans for both animated and live action stuff in this new cinematic universe of his, which does kind of make it unique compared to how Marvel and other cinematic universes are doing. Even though Marvel do some animated stuff themselves, but it's not quite. But it's kind of within other universes. So yeah. Anyway, enough rambling away. But yeah, draw your own conclusions in the comments as to what you think about each of the Superman films, and if you want me to check out Superman stuff that I've not talked about in this review, because there's plenty of Superman stuff that I've not done, then do say so, and I will check it out at some point. But other than that, thanks so much for watching. Like, share, comment, and subscribe if you can, please. Those of you that are new to the channel, I do vlogs like this where I'm reviewing, exploring, paying tribute to different things. Also hauls, rants on live, top 10s kind of sort of, and Q&As as well. I also do occasional shorts here and there, including cinema trips and other stuff. And if you're a gamer, then I do gameplay stuff as well. So every Monday and Tuesday, I do gameplay videos which is basically a series of videos for a long game, which I do, and sometimes do it in Let's Play form. But otherwise, I stick to having Let's Plays on Wednesdays, where, as you know, I have commentary on it and everything. I basically just talk and play a game. So, yeah, that is what I do, and other stuff too. See you in the next one. Peace to you all, and remember, never ever mess with a person that can basically crush bullets, cannot be defeated easily unless you have a stick of kryptonite, and never underestimate your opponents. And whatever happens, remember, kryptonite can affect some people, and sometimes it's great to express yourself using kryptonite in your weakness. And yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, just enjoy life, live life to the full and everything, but never underestimate your opponents. So yeah, all right, toodles.
There's a starman waiting in the sky.